Well, hello, and welcome to episode 112 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. Michaela, we are at 112 episodes, and it's time to finally talk about one of the best, one of the longest movies around. It comes in two parts. It came on two tapes. They wouldn't even air it all in the same day on TV. They would have to break it up because they said, nope, you know what, advertisers don't want this much. But we're talking today about The Sound of Music, the musical of musicals, some would say. But how are you doing, Michaela? How has your week been going? What are you getting up to? Are you packed up? We have a special trip coming up.
We do. We do. We are uh, going across the South to the baked clay sands of Florida to go see Mickey and
You're
Minnie.
selling it. This sounds good. This sounds great.
This sounds amazing. No, we are doing our, I think it's going to be our third trip together to Disney
Hmm.
World. The last time we went and did the parks, though, it was before the pandemic. So I'm a little nervous. I'm a little excited because I know things have definitely changed. Very exciting stuff. I started to really zone in on the Oscar films. I finally saw Don't Worry, Darling, which had a lot of Oscar buzz. And then it came out and it had a lot of controversy around like the cast and all that. And so I missed
Hmm.
it in the theaters, but it's on HBO now. And so I was able to
It
see
is. Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and that was interesting. I know you actually co-hosted a podcast episode for that film, right? So what did you
Yeah.
think about it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was a guest on Galaxy of Film, one of our friends' podcasts there to talk about that. So I saw it in the theater pretty close to release time, and yeah, I had a lot of buzz going on about that. Going into it, then yeah, there was a bunch of controversy and things. I thought that the movie was it had some definite positives in it. Florence Pugh is in it, which is a positive for any movie that she's in because she's amazing.
Yeah.
So that was good. I thought that it looked great. I thought that the story kind of in theory was interesting, but
Hmm.
the execution of that was a little sloppy. But I still think it's probably worth checking out if you're into that kind of genre of movie, just to see Florence Pugh act because that's always a really great time. So check it out. Yeah, it's available on HBO, and you can get into that and see what you thought. And it actually did pretty well in the theater because I think people were very intrigued by the drama kind of surrounding it, and
Mm.
to see if this was really going to be a dumpster fire or a stroke of brilliance. I don't know. You'll have to decide for yourself. So check that out. What did I get up to? I watched The Last of Us, premiered on HBO last night as of recording. Apparently, a lot of people were watching because my stream was a little intermittent, so to speak. But thought that it was a really great start to a really great story that I like a lot, and very excited to see how this series takes shape as we go over the next 8 or so weeks. So
Yeah.
got into that, and yeah, now it's just time to pack for the bright sun of
Right.
Florida and get ready to to get to Disney and take in some more movie magic there. So Michaela, we're talking movie magic, and there's definitely some of that in The Sound of Music. But to get into this lengthy one, we're going to need a drink. So why don't we take a quick break, and we will be right back to whip up this week's cocktail.
So this week's cocktail comes from Volver or Volver. I don't know which pronunciation is correct, but it's a restaurant bar. I think it's going to be Volver because it sounds very
Wow. Okay.
bougie. But it's at the Kimmel
It does.
Cultural Campus in Philadelphia, PA.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it is a special drink that they did just for the screening of Sound of Music. I think it's called My Favorite Things, which is interesting because some of these things are definitely on the list of favorite things, and some of these I've never even heard before. So,
That's right. Maybe
yeah,
they're on the new list of favorite
they might
things.
be on the new list. This was a really fun cocktail. It's a little esoteric. It's got some ingredients that you might have to go and find. I definitely know this starts with 2 dashes of black walnut bitters. I know, Brian, you had to go on a mission and find that. So if you know you want to
Hmm.
make this, I do think that that's important to the drink. I would really suggest go finding it and getting it or ordering it on Amazon or something like that. Um, the black
Yeah,
walnut piece is important for later.
yeah, that's right. It has a very distinct kind of taste and smell. It has kind of this very like I don't know, like this sultry earthiness. It was really nice, really luscious. And your liquor store or cocktail store, whatever grocery store might have black walnut bitters. They're not super uncommon, but I did end up, I just ordered some online. I didn't even bother going out to try to hunt them down. So
Yep.
pick up a bottle of those. It's bitters that's going to last you forever. And yeah, you're going to use a couple of dashes of that in this drink, as well as a half ounce of honey syrup, which is just a simple syrup that is made with honey instead of regular table sugar. So just equal parts honey and water. Bring that to a low boil, let it dissolve, and you're good to go with your honey syrup. A half ounce of that, three-quarters of an ounce of lemon juice, and then 1 ounce of a very special product from Dolan called Dolan Genepi. Michaela, you were able to find that at your liquor store. You have a good liquor store near you, so they have a lot of really strange and interesting liquors and things like that. So they actually had this. So
They did. And it's beautiful. It comes in like a green bottle. It's like a mix between an absinthe and like a vermouth is what
mhm.
it kind of reminds me of, like the bottle, because it looks really bougie and just beautiful. And it's this lovely green color. But it is hard to find. Apparently they had a bottle or two of it, and they said that we were lucky because they only get it once every quarter or something, because it's kind of a special product. So you might have to order that as well somewhere, but it's worth it. And I don't really know what the substitution would be.
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of digging on that, and it said that you could kind of substitute. Yeah, it's kind of like a halfway between an absinthe and like a chartreuse. You could probably use like a Lillet Blanc, perhaps in that, or you could probably even just use a really nice bottle of vermouth. That's mostly what I knew Dolan from was just their sweet and dry vermouths. But yeah, so check this one out if you can. If not, you can kind of get close with some of those other kind of French aromatic liqueurs are going to get you kind of roughly in the same ballpark. So I'm going to take 1 ounce of that into the shaker tin, and then 2 ounces of cognac, dealer's choice, whatever cognac you have on hand. And then you're going to shake that and strain it into a coupe glass. They actually garnish theirs and here at Volver with some fennel. We didn't have any fennel prawns, so we just drink it straight up, put a dash of the black walnut bitters on top to kind of bring out that aroma, and drank it. And I don't know, Michaela, this was delicate as a flower in an Austrian field, I will say.
Yeah. It was surprisingly good. I was a little worried about this Dolan Genepi because I never had it before, and cognac. Cognac, it scared me growing up because I thought it was for just old men in Hitchcock films,
Mm.
but or in the movie Clue with their bodies flying everywhere, right? So
With a giant brandy snifter and a
right,
cigar, you
right.
just have, yeah.
Yeah, so I was a little afraid of cognac-based drinks, but we've done quite a few of them in our tenure here at Drink the Movies in the 112 episodes. And I have to say, this was very different than what I expected it to be. It was very delicate. It was just sweet enough that honey syrup really comes through. It was a beautiful color. And I really think that really depends on the type of honey that you get. If you get kind of a lighter honey or a darker honey, your color is going to be dramatically changed by that. Um,
Mhm.
but it was really tasty. And I definitely think you want to drink it when it's still cold. It gets a little weird if it warms up.
Mhm.
I had more than one of these. So the first one was I drank nice and cold. The second one I let sit for a little bit, and it got more kind of syrupy as it
Okay.
warmed.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so I would recommend making sure that you drink it when in a nice cold coupe glass, and don't let it sit.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
drink it.
Yeah, for sure. That is why The Sound of Music has an intermission. It's so you can mix up another one of these and keep them nice and cold. But yeah, the honey and the lemon really kind of blend well together, and it highlights kind of those more aromatic springtime floral notes of that Dolan Genepi, and then the cognac just gives it a really nice kind of body backing to it. So this was really good. And then the honey syrup is super versatile. You can use that in a bunch of recipes. You can use it as a stand-in for just your regular simple syrup, which is going to change the way your cocktails taste a little bit. And you can play around with that with different honeys and things like Michaela said. So definitely give this one a shot, as especially if you want to be transported to Salzburg, Austria. It's going to take you right there for sure. So give one of these a try, take pictures, send them in, because it was a lovely looking drink. And now Michaela, we've got one of these. We better mix up another one or two, because this is a lengthy one, and we're going to need to stay hydrated. If keep the vocal cords
That's right.
lubricated if we're
That's right.
gonna make it through this one. So
Absolutely.
why don't we take a quick break, and we'll be back to chat about this week's film, The Sound of Music.
The spoiler warning for The Sound of Music. We're going to talk all about the things. Yeah, so in all seriousness, spoiler warning for The Sound of Music. If you've not seen this, I'm sorry. It's been around since rocks have been soft. There's no excuse. But if you've not seen it and you don't want us to tell you how this 3.5 hour anthem and epic film goes, then you should press pause. You should go make yourself a My Favorite Things cocktail with the amazing Dolan Genepi, and then watch the film. Come back, press play, and we can chat about all the things Sound of Music.
That's right. Thank you for that intro there, Sister Michaela. We do appreciate that. So, even if you've not seen The Sound of Music, I guarantee that you've probably heard at least, like, I don't know, like 4 of these songs. I would almost be willing to wager money on it. But yeah, so this came out in 1965. It was directed by Robert Wise, and it stars Julie Andrews as Maria. She is a singing nun. And Christopher Plummer as Captain George Von Trapp, who is the grumpiest Von Trapp, and then the nicest and sweetest captain in the land by the end of this thing. So, Michaela, The Sound of Music was a big deal. Made a lot of money, a lot of money. Whenever you are talking about films and how much money they made, there's always the caveat that, well, The Sound of Music made $300 million almost in 1965, which is equivalent to, like, I don't know, like $14 trillion today or something. So made a lot of money and made a lot of critical acclaim, was nominated for 10 Academy Awards.
It sure was. And only won 5 of them. I say only, that's still a pretty amazing number. It won for Best Picture, it won for Best Director, Robert Wise, it won for Best Sound, Best Editing, and of course, Best Score.
Of course, best score. Yeah, absolutely. You will be singing these tunes in your sleep when you finally get to rest after watching through this one. So won those 5. It lost 5 though. Lost Best Actress for Julie Andrews, Best Supporting Actress for Peggy Wood. It lost, for some reason, Best Cinematography and Color. It also lost best Set Decoration and Color, and Costume Design and Color, because the 1960s were a time where we were still celebrating color films and black and white films before everyone just decided that color films were the only ones worth having around anymore, I guess.
That's
But
right.
lost cinematography, Michaela, which is odd because this movie starts off, it looks like a National Geographic documentary. It's beautiful. Austria, the Alps, lovely.
Yeah. I mean, so I have a small story to tell that's a personal story. My son loves films. He's always loved films. He is my child. And when he was about 2, we started kind of collecting movies that we thought we could watch with his little pad in the car or whatever. And because we love to travel. And one of his favorite films of all time was The Sound of Music. But it was really this sequence that you're talking about, this opening sequence, because when it begins, you hear this rush of wind, and it's very they must have done it on a helicopter or a plane, but the cadence of the camera is so smoothly done.
It's probably done on a hot air balloon, probably.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that seems more like it, actually. Because it's such a smooth kind of rendering of these shots. They're sweeping and grand, and you see the top of these Alps and you hear the wind, but then you also start to hear the score of a bunch of the different amalgamations of the different songs kind of come together. And it's really just beautiful. And I remember seeing an interview with Robert Wise, and the cinematographer, and they were talking about this sweeping scene where they wanted to get to the top of this mountain and get to the close of as the top of this mountain as they could possibly get while still being in the air, which sounds real dangerous. And you see Maria, played by the amazing Julie Andrews, climbing at the top of this hill, and it literally like just cuts right as it's getting to her. And then of course you have the close-up of her sweeping her arms around and singing, the first bars of The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music. And it's just the most amazing beginning to a film. And you automatically feel the grandness that this film's going to be, the epicness. My son was 2 when he saw this, and he still says, I want to watch the Mountain movie because of this scene. And so why it didn't win Best Cinematography is beyond me. I don't get it. But whatever.
Dr. Zhivago won. I don't know. So give us your thoughts if you think that was just or not. But yeah, so we get this movie started up. You get that most, one of the most iconic film images of Julie Andrews in that field, kind of here in the very first, 60 seconds of this movie. And that sets up, for the grand scale of sort of this thing. So we get into the story a little bit. We're not going to go beat for beat through this thing because it is a lengthy one, but basically we have Julie Andrews. She is a nun. She is playing Sister Maria. And as it turns out, the other nuns at this abbey, somewhere just outside of Salzburg, Austria, are a little hot and cold on Sister Maria. Some of them think that she's whimsical and charming and love her singing. Some of them find her a little annoying, and she could irritate like a hornet out of a hornet's nest or something, which is a really sick Austrian burn, no doubt. But yeah, so you get kind of this first section. Don't know how these other ladies are feeling about Maria, but she is going to be tasked with taking over charge of these children at Captain von Trapp's house.
Yeah, she's very much a free spirit, and the Mother Superior, or the Reverend Mother, played by Peggy Wood. She is the she has been asked to help find Georg von Trapp a governess, is what they called her, for his 7 children. That's a lot of children. Apparently, Georg and his beautiful wife had all these children, and then unfortunately she died. They don't talk about why, but he has he's got a lot of love around him for the service that he did to his country, or did for his country. He lives in this insane mansion on the on the lake near Salzburg. And Maria, she is really very free spirited. She's supposed to be taking her vows very seriously, and she's got a lot of faith, which is wonderful, but she is also so lighthearted. A lot of other nuns who have gone ahead and taken their vows, they think that she needs a dose of growing up. And so Mother Superior sends her to go and help out in this way. You don't know for how long it's supposed to happen, or any of that. And so what we see is another kind of sweeping, beautiful kind of montage of her walking and taking a train and taking a bus through the streets of Salzburg to get to this mansion. And she's building up her confidence, and she sings "I Have Confidence," which is a really good thing, because she's scared, but she's like, I'm gonna figure this out, I'm gonna get this done.
Michaela sings it to herself every day.
I have problems with my confidence, so I sing it all the time. I have got confidence in sunshine. But I love it. I love again, I don't know if they might have not. I don't know why it didn't win for set direction, because some of these places were actually in Salzburg. But this house is amazing. And of course, Maria, being super curious and free spirited, the first thing she does when she gets into that house, she goes and looks around, which is not the thing she's supposed to be doing. And she meets Captain von Trapp and his whistle.
That's right. Yeah, I love she's sent to take care of these kids, and Mother Abbess says that there's 7, and she's like, 7? Yeah, because 7 kids is a lot of kids, and she is there to take care of them. You mentioned the house is beautiful. The house has this crazy scope and scale that I'm not 100% sure how in 1965 that they had wide enough lenses to capture this whole thing. I don't know how it was shot, but the modern sort of cleaned up versions of this look amazing as you're kind of going through this house. And yeah, it's in through this very ornately decorated room there when she's first meets father, Captain Georg von Trapp, there, who comes out and blows his whistle and calls his 7 kids. So we've got 7. I'm going to run through these here real quick. We've got Liesel, Louisa, Friedrich, Kurt, Brigitta, Marta, and Gretel. But don't feel bad if you don't remember them, because even Sister Maria doesn't remember all of these kids' names. Kurt is who she forgets as she's there on the first night. And it turns out that these kids have a bit of a disciplinarian as a father. Which fair. If you're a single dad and you have 7 kids, keep those kids in order, right? You one uniform to wear. I'm gonna blow this whistle. You're gonna come down, stand at attention. No time for fun because there's too many of you. Can't be bothered. Don't ask. But yeah, apparently these kids have a little bit of trouble with their caretakers and like to razz them up, and that is exactly what they do to Maria on the first night. They try to get the best of her, but Maria is not one to be swayed by these kids' ill intent with a frog in the pocket. She is there for the long run.
That's right. And I love how it really does speak to her character, because at dinner, first of all, she's late. They talk about her being late at dinner in the Abbey, and she's no different here. She's late for dinner. But she makes them pray, which I think is kind of funny, because they should be a faithful family if they're asking the church to send them a free governess. But whatever. So they pray, and then she like goes out of her way to thank the children for making her first day feel so great. And then they all start crying because they feel guilty. It's very Catholic. And so then they've kind of decided at that point, maybe they should rethink their ways. But Maria is not dissuaded because she understands that something else is amiss here. Captain Von Trapp is a disciplinarian for sure, but it's not just because the kids, there are 7 of them and he can't deal with that. He also is still kind of mourning his wife. The other caretakers in the house kind of let Maria know that they used to do singing, they used to laugh a lot, there was dancing and parties, they had a whole ballroom that she had seen earlier when she was kind of searching through the house, and all of that stopped when his wife died. And so they think that the other caretakers believe that Captain Von Trapp is going away to Vienna in the morning after this, and he is going and seeing this woman who's this baroness, and he's been spending a lot of time with her, and maybe that they are going to get married. And so now Maria is filled with this new sense of purpose. She's going to help prepare all these kids for a new mother, and she's just this isn't going to be a permanent thing, and it's really great. And meanwhile, we have our very first love song, Young Love.
Young Love, yeah, that's right. It's maybe my favorite of the singing performances, 16 going on 17. But I love how this gets set up because Liesel, the oldest daughter there, she just stands up in the middle of dinner, walks out. No one says anything to her. She is on her way out to meet up with her one true love, that is Rolf. They're out alongside of this lake singing. And I really love this one. There's a lot of big scale and scope, and when you get to Do Re Mi, that's this big over the top through the entirety of the Austrian countryside and the city of Salzburg as they're going through. But this one is a little bit more intimate, and I love they have this dance sequence. I'm kind of in this glass atrium gazebo sort of thing, and it looks really epic. It's really nice, kind of more intimate moment, because there's 7 kids, so most of the times in this thing there's a huge number of people on the screen at a time, but this is a little bit more kind of dialing in to kind of the more love aspects and the growing up of Liesel and what that could mean for the family and things like that.
Yeah. No, and I definitely like this part because at first you really think that children are kind of these monsters. I mean, they don't seem very nice, but this really humanizes Liesel. And the problem is she has this really amazing kind of first love with Rolf, and Rolf is played by Daniel Truhit. And he's, he definitely looks like a 15, well, he's 17, but he looks like a 15-year-old boy. He rides a bike, and he is a telegram deliverer. And you find that he is, really part of the history of what is happening in actuality in Austria. Germany is starting to kind of spread its power around. I'm not sure exactly how to say this. We haven't had the Auschwitz yet, where they basically come in and annex the country of Austria and say, yeah, you're part of Germany now. That has not happened, but it happens throughout the course of the film. But he is kind of concerned for Liesel's dad, because he says, look, Liesel's dad is very much a pro-Austrian, anti-German kind of overtaking Austrian person. And he's very vocal about it. And that could get him into trouble as things move forward. And of course, Liesel is young. She's 16. She's like, oh, the emperor loves him. It'll be fine. And then they have this beautiful song between them, but she gets locked out because it's pouring outside, and at this point it's probably really late, and so her I guess way to get in is to climb up the side of the building and go into Maria's bedroom while Maria is praying on her bed and asking God to bless all the children. So I love this scene because she doesn't even seem that concerned that Liesel is climbing into her bedroom at first. She doesn't stop praying. Liesel is trying to talk to her, and she's like, whoop, just give me a second. She finishes, and then she says, hey, what were you doing out there? And she's not super judgmental about it. She's not like, how dare you? You look awful. Your dress is ruined. And so there's this really great kind of bonding that happens, because she's like, you can't tell father. And Maria is like, look, let's go soak your dress, because it's a mess. And dresses were expensive back then. You couldn't just go to the place and get them. So come back, let's sit down on the bed, and we're going to have a little chat. And you really feel like she's taken on this motherly kind of role, and a friendly role, because that then she's then probably going to have a conversation about like boys in general and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate and all of that. But again, in a really good-hearted way and a good-natured way, instead of what her father would have done. And so this is one of my favorite scenes for that reason.
Yeah, she's coming in. You get all the kids there, to which Maria's going to try to calm them all down by saying, these are a few of my favorite things. Don't worry about the thunder and lightning outside. Think about, raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. But Captain Georg von Trapp is not pleased. He says, no more singing. Get back to your bed. I don't care if there's thunderstorm. Kids, good night. Maria, I told you what time bedtime was. Will you pay attention and listen to the rules? And Maria says, okay, I will. But Maria doesn't. What does she do instead? She takes her drapes, turns them into some play clothes for the children, because Maria is an excellent seamstress. She can do all this. I don't know. It's probably over the course of some time, but it seems like it happens over a day. And when Captain Georg heads out of town, he is going to Vienna to pick up his pals, the Baroness and Max. Maria is going to take these kids out and give them a wee bit of a singing lesson. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
That's right. This scene is also one of my favorite scenes, because it, like you said before, it's got these really sweeping kind of
We should have started a favorites counter for.
We should have really. I'm at 2. I think you're at 1. But I love this because they have this beautiful montage of them singing in different places. They're on like a horse and buggy. They're riding bikes through this really beautiful meadow. They're having a picnic on the side of these mountains. And it is then that I think it's important to note the children finally admit that the reason why they've been so awful to all of the governesses is that's the only time they get attention from their father. And so Maria is like, oh, well, we're going to have to think about that, because, we can't, that this isn't sustainable, and you can't, that's not a good way to be around your children, and he will regret that. She already kind of seems to see more in him as a person than just this captain who's shouting orders and whistling and things. There's a couple of really good points where she'll say certain things to him and he'll be taken aback and look at her, and they capture that really beautifully on film. So there's a little bit of foreshadowing of what's to come there. they're really enjoying their time. And we're not clear how long this is happening, but it's probably weeks and weeks and weeks of them doing all these outings and going to all these places and learning aspects of singing. I thought as a kid, this was all you really needed to know. I had no idea that there was like a scale and like,
That's
musical
it.
sheets that you needed to read. I thought if you could sing Do Re Mi, you were good to go. That's all you needed.
That's right. That's more or less true. Yeah, you just sing the things in order that you want to sing them in, put in words instead of do re mi, and you are good to go. Yeah, she teaches them how to sing. It's this big sort of epic dance number as it goes all through town, like you said, and it ends up kind of with the children are up like climbing these trees as Captain Von Trapp comes back with the Baroness, and Max sees these kids in a tree and later realizes that, oh, those were not neighborhood ruffian kids. Those were my kids. Sister Maria, what are you doing? You failed me once again. You're fired. Get out of here. But something good is going to happen because the kids had learned a song to sing for the Baroness and Max, and they're inside doing a wee bit of a performance. Captain Von Trapp goes in, sees the kids singing. The kids haven't sang, maybe since his wife died. I don't know for sure. But his little Grinchy heart grew 3 sizes that day. And he says, Sister Maria, I changed my mind. You can stay. You are all right. The kids are singing. You know what you should do now is put on the creepiest puppet show of all time for me, and I'll love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so they don't. So the Baroness is there with Uncle Max. Uncle Max is one of my favorite characters. And I hear through looking at the history of how this film was made that all of the kind of supporting characters were painstakingly decided upon by the casting crew. Because they needed to be just right. And I think that Max Detweiler, played by the amazing Richard Hayden, he is perfect in this. All he cares about is money. He's very, very open about it. He and the Baroness Elsa von Schreiber, played by Eleanor Parker. Eleanor Parker is amazing in this because she's very beautiful and she has this amazing, like, sultry accent. But Von Schrader and Matt and Uncle Max, they're good friends. And Max is like, hey, when are y'all going to get married? Because I really need y'all to combine your fortunes. And by the way, I'm in charge of putting together this really amazing festival for Austria. And he hears these kids sing and he's like, oh, they need to be at the festival. They need to sing. I mean, this is amazing. 7 singers in one family. This is so cool. So he buys them and I guess he's got plenty of money, but he buys them this giant puppet show thing with all these puppets. And I don't know, you think it's creepy? I like the song. The song's fun. The
The
yodel.
the song is fun, and actually, and the puppeteering, the puppetry, is nice too. There's a lot of puppets going on. I guess that's one of the benefits of having 7 kids plus Maria is you can have a lot of puppets on there. They are kind of puppets in general are kind of creepy, to be honest. But yeah, it is a fun song, and yeah, you have won over the hearts and minds of everyone, Maria. So now you are in it to win it. You're here with these kids, having a good time. You're teaching them how to dance. There's a big ball that Captain Von Trapp is throwing there at the house in this very beautiful room. Maria and the kids are kind of outside and they're going through the dance, and the captain sees Maria dancing and says, I think you shouldn't be dancing with the kids. You should dance with me instead. So they're going to do that. And Maria starts to get the feelings. And you're a nun. You're not supposed to be feeling those feelings. So Maria says, I am
It's like
out
a
the
Jedi.
door. I am back to the nunnery. Get me out of here. I can't handle this. I'm going to sneak out and be on my way.
Yeah, no, yeah, this scene is great, but it's also really hard. She's helped. Let's be honest. She's helped because Baroness Schrader also sees this happening, and she can tell because the acting is really good. I don't think these actors actually got along in real life. But Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews during this dance scene, they look like they are like mesmerized by each other. Like they don't care who's looking. It is palpable for a child to see, and still, it's not sexual at all. It's just beautiful, like this love that they kind of are emanating from each other. It's very, very interesting. And of course, Baroness Schrader sees it, and so of course, when Maria comes to her and they're trying to talk about this. Baroness is like, "Oh yeah, you're in love with him, and he's in love with you." And she's like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm about to be a nun. Like, I gotta go." So she leaves, and she just leaves a note, which devastates the children. It's so sad. And that's kind of the end of the first half, right? Because I think this is where the entrance or the intermission is happening. And so it's a really good spot because you don't know what's going to happen next, and you're very much on a cliffhanger about how they're going to figure this out. But we're not going to have an intermission here at Drink the Movies because we gotta move forward.
That's right. Yeah, we were going to mix up another my favorite things, and then we were going to carry on. So Maria gets back to the nunnery, and Mother Abbess says, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's your purpose, is to go and be in love with this guy and take care of his 7 kids. So go back out, and God will let you know what's what." So she ends up kind of reluctantly going back to the house. Says, "I will just be here until we find someone else, because I still can't handle these feelings I got feeling for you right now, Captain Von Trapp." But she goes, and those feelings are not meant to get in the way, because they are meant to get married, and that is what happens.
That's what happens. Yeah. Georg, I don't understand Georg von Trapp and this whole thing because he doesn't seem to be really into the Baroness. He calls her his savior at one point in the movie, and you don't really understand why.
He
She does
needed
not.
someone to watch the kids full time, is what he needed.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But they decide they're going to get married, and then like the next day, Maria shows up, and the Baroness can just see this is not good. And so I really do like the scene where they kind of break up because he starts to do kind of the whole "it's not you, it's me" in, whenever this was supposed to be 1938. And she's like, "No, you know what? It is you. It is totally you. I need someone that needs me desperately, and you don't. So I'm gonna pack my bags." But she does kind of say, "Look, I know you're in it with you're in love with Maria. You should go do that." And so that's really kind of nice. And then there's this really kind of darkly shot scene of them in that same gazebo with Rolf and Liesel, and they're kind of talking about how the captain and Maria are talking about how he's not going to marry the Baroness anymore, and he doesn't understand why she came back. And they kind of admit their feelings for each other, and they, kiss, and it's very chaste, and yet it's really not. I remember as a kid being uncomfortable with how like kind of just in the moment they were really like in love, but it's like it's 1965, so it's a beautiful example of how you can show passion and love in a way that is still like not tons of like sex and nudity. I really liked that. And then they go into singing probably one of my least favorite of the songs, which is "I Must Have Done Something Awfully Good," or "Awfully Good," I think is the actual name. But they're singing. Christopher Plummer is singing. That's kind of a neat thing. But yeah, they're just kind of making out in this gazebo, and then they get married. It's great.
That's right. That's right. Christopher Plummer does a little bit of singing. He's sang Edelweiss there in the first act, which is nice. He's not quite as vibrant of a singer as Maria, but he has some pretty good singing chops too. And yeah, like you said, they are in love. They are getting married. It is a quick turnaround here for these two, and they are headed out of town on their honeymoon. Now, Uncle Max. He has some big plans. He says, "I'm throwing this shindig where everyone's going to come and sing about Austria and why they like Austria and stuff like that. And I want your kids to go." And Captain Georg has very much been like, "I don't want my kids doing that. They don't need to go do that. My kids are not show ponies," Uncle Max is what he says. But when he goes out to do the honeymoon, Max is going to sign the kids up to do it anyway. And also, bad news, Nazis are coming into town. They said, "Austria, you're ours now." So everyone is going to go to do this thing. It's going to be a sort of a unification concert sort of thing. And now the kids are on the hook for it. So what does Captain Von Trapp and Maria decide to do? They say, "We're going to get out of town. We're not interested in that. It's time to go. Don't want to be any part of this. Want to get far away from here." But unfortunately, on the way out, they get stopped.
They get stopped. Yeah, they this I'm gonna say it wrong. The Guilletier, Hans Zeller, He was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we meet him in the first half. We meed him at the very first party where they sing "So Long Farewell," and it's the party that introduces the Baroness to everybody. And there is no love lost between Captain Von Trapp and Mr. Zeller. They do not get along because Hans is definitely pro-Nazi, pro the Third Reich. He keeps telling everyone to Heil Hitler, and he will not let them not Heil him back. It's very uncomfortable to watch these days. I mean, even Uncle Max is like, Heil Hitler. Yeah, whatever, dude. And so Mr. Zeller has arranged for Captain Von Trapp to be sent back into the naval base. And he has been requested to be commissioned and go out to sea immediately, probably for certain death, because of his outspokenness against the annexation by the Third Reich. And so they're like, yeah, we don't have freedom of speech here. If you're going to say those things, we'll just have you killed. And so, yeah, they're trying to leave. They get stopped in the street because fortunately, their butler is kind of on the Third Reich side and rats them out. And as a kid, I did not realize that that's what was happening. But that's one of the things that if you're going to take something away from an educational standpoint, that's something that everybody had to do. Is they would have people rat on you and tell everybody your business if they didn't think that you were on the up and up as far as being supportive of Germany and Nazism and all that horrible stuff. So, they end up having to go to the festival and giving a performance in like these beautiful, again, their traveling clothes are beautiful. I don't know why this didn't win best costuming, because it's extraordinary, but they are singing more of the same music that they sang the entirety of the film before. But they do give, Christopher Plummer gives a beautiful rendition of Edelweiss. And he says goodbye to the country, because he tells them he's going to be leaving to join the Navy. And of course, all the people start singing, and it's a really sweet, beautiful moment.
I really like how they kind of play on kind of that first rendition of "So Long Farewell," Wiedersehen, goodbye, because all the kids were leaving kind of one by one to go up and go to bed, and they do that kind of same sort of routine here at this show, but that is basically getting the kids shuffled off so they can make their way out to safety. So as everyone is kind of leaving, it just seems very natural that they would be exiting stage right, as it were. So they're headed out. Everyone kind of dawns a little late on Herr Zeller, that everyone is making their way out of the country. He gets there, but not in time to stop them before the family Von Trapp is able to flee to safety. And we are seeing them at the very end as they're walking through this meadow in the Swiss Alps. Now they have made it from Austria to Switzerland and reached their safe haven. So that is kind of where it ends. It's the musical about the Von Trapp family and being united over the love of singing, with Sister Maria, now Mother Maria of the Van Trapps, Mother Van Trapp, I guess. So, Michaela, I don't know, Sound of Music. It is a classic of classics. It's always in the top list of movies and movies you must see before you die, and all of these things. And it's really broken up kind of into the two parts. You have the good fun part in the first act there, and you have the more somber real world implications of the second act. But Sound of Music, tell me about your history with it.
So I remember my dad. He was a master of the VHS. Dad, if you're listening, I still remember all 3,000 movies that you taped off of the TV, and this was one of them. And this, like, you were completely correct. This was a 2-evening part. You had part 1 on a Monday and part 2 on a Tuesday or something, and it was always around Christmas, because I remember the Christmas commercials in 1986 when this was filmed. When my dad taped it, not when it was filmed. But so I remember seeing this from probably the age of 6 on. It is one of those films that I think you can watch at a very young age. You're not going to understand all the ins and outs. You'll understand like the overarching, like Maria versus the captain versus the children aspect. I think you'll get that I think you'll get that aspect of Maria versus Captain versus children and that kind of love. And I think you'll get that as a child. You probably will not get the underscore, which is probably the bigger story, which is,
Mhm.
the Third Reich and the Nazis coming into Austria and the family feeling the pressure of not being able to live in that world and not wanting to live in that world, and then physically having to escape in a very dangerous way. You probably won't get that as a child, but I've watched this at least once a year. Like I said, it was one of my son's favorite first movies of all time. And it was amazing this weekend when I sat down to watch it. As soon as I turned it on, he was like, "Oh, it's the mountain movie." And he sat with me and watched the whole thing. Which is amazing because he's not even 8 yet. And he struggled to understand kind of why they were running away at the end and things like that.
Mhm.
But it was a
Yeah.
good learning moment for sure. I love this film. I mean,
Yeah.
it's real long. It is real long. But I still love it. What about you? When did you watch this for the first time?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things, and I think kind of the first act is more lighthearted. It's more fun. It has all of the music. Plus, it's really kind of your takeaway as you see this as a youngster. So that's kind of why everyone loves that first section, because that's the part you remember, and then it gets more into, like I said, into that story driven part in the second. Where as a younger kid, you don't really necessarily understand the ins and outs of what's actually happening there. It doesn't have, as good of tunes in the second one. It's a very much more somber feeling kind of thing. So you could really kind of split this up into two separate movies if you wanted to. You could literally just watch up through the first intermission, and it's pretty much a fully contained story kind of in that. And the second one is in the second act is kind of a more fully contained story. So you could almost treat it as two movies if you really wanted to. But yeah, same as you, Michaela. This was on TV every kind of holiday-ish season. I remember watching it there. A bunch of times growing up. I remember, having like the VHS, like actual like copy of it, which looked just massive sitting on the shelf because it was this big double VHS set, and it was in that bright kind
Mm-hmm.
of baby blue Sound of Music thing that, kind of color matched. Julie Andrews dress there in that opening scene kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So yeah, so I mean it's a movie that is, stood the test of time in the way that a lot of musicals do. Sound of Music, Wizard of Oz, stuff like that are things, that at least kids of our generation and before would have grown up with, on network television and things like that, and movies of the week. So it'll be interesting to see. And we talked, I just mentioned Wizard of Oz. We talked about this in our Wizard of Oz episode of how kind of the legacy of stuff like of this and of that are going to carry on now that you have an infinite number of things to watch, any minute of the day if you so choose. It's not going to be, sort of the family event to sit down and watch. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes here over the next, 10, 12, 20 years, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of the all-time classics. It's one of the all-time great musicals for sure, and definitely got all the accolades and the money to prove for it. I don't know. I need to go back and watch Dr. Zhivago to see, because apparently the cinematography on that must have just been like next level. Like I don't even understand it for sure, but it's so beautiful, and the current remasterings of this look just exceptional. They must
Yeah.
they must have just like the original prints just locked away in some vault somewhere where they can just go in and touch them up whenever they want, because it looks fantastic. And you can see it on Disney Plus if you have that. Watch the whole thing. I was hoping they might have a sing along version on there, but I didn't see one. So
No, no, but I mean, if you're a true fan, you're just going to sing along anyway, right?
you make your own. Make your own. Yeah.
What they did have a sing along to was Julie Andrews had a Lifetime Achievement Award maybe last year, I think. They honored her. They were going to honor her, I think, in 2020, but COVID ruined that. But she managed to be present, and they had this big kind of Lifetime Achievement Award. And then they had the remaining of the 7 Von Trapp children got on stage and went around and sang Do Re Mi, and it was really actually quite touching. You can Google that, and it's on YouTube somewhere, but that moment is really special. I definitely watched that after watching this version, or this this iteration of Sound of Music. It's amazing to me because it's it's really stood the test of time so well, like you said, with the remastering of um the film. It's glorious and beautiful. The color is still just as rich as I remember it being as a child. And so it will be interesting to see how it stands the test of time going forward when you have other choices of things to watch, and you basically can watch anything anytime.
Mhm.
What a world, what a way we live in. But I still think it's so worthy. I saw Dr. Zhivago and I remember it completely ripping my heart out. So I need to revisit that and see what the big deal was as far as the cinematography, because I don't remember. But that's just because I don't remember. So yeah, more to come. Another 3-hour film we're going to cover on the Drink the Movies, maybe next year, because we're gonna have quite a few of these as we go through the Oscars. But Dr. Zhivago is on the list. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. So that is Sound of Music. Let us know at home what your kind of early memories of Sound of Music are, what your favorite song from the Sound of Music is. Let us know if you make a favorite things cocktail, because we want to see pictures and all of that stuff. You can tag us on our Instagram and Twitter and Hive. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of our favorite thing, cocktail we made, and episode recaps and all that stuff, you can do that on the website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And you're going to want to make sure you are following along with the podcast, because next week, Michaela, we are talking about something that won all of the awards except for one, and that's Saving Private Ryan. We're going to get into all of that next week. So you're going to want to make sure that you get subscribed. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Good Pod, any place where Anchor podcasts are distributed. We do 2 drops a week. This is separate from our Patreon. And we do our lobby bars, which are fun cocktails and talking about the box office. And then we do our deep dives as well. Subscribe if you like it. And if you're liking what we're doing, leave us a message. Send us a request. We love talking with our community. You guys have built up a really fun group of folks that love cocktails and movies alike. And man, it's just awesome that we get to do it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Michaela, now that we've made it through this musical, you actually didn't sing at all. I don't know. I don't know. I was expecting more singing, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll save it for the next musical for sure. So, I don't know. Let's go mix up another one of my favorite things, and then yeah, next week's gonna be heavy, Saving Private Ryan. So we're gonna have to get a drink and find a cocktail for that one. So let's do that, and we will talk to everyone next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies.
Small and white, clean and bright, you look happy to meet me. How's that for singing?
I can't. I've got a sore finger.
Oh, it got caught in Friedrich's teeth.